Hello, my name is Kyle and welcome to episode 7 of Video Bootcamp, all about making the most of what you have. Not everyone can buy the most expensive camera or the fastest lenses. When you're first starting off, you have to make the most of what you've got. So in this video, I'm going to give you practical production tips on how to make professional looking video from beginner level gear. My first tip for beginner level gear is light. It is imperative to have proper lighting for your scene when you're using inexpensive cameras. Your goal should be to set your ISO no higher than 800 or even 400 on the most inexpensive cameras. And in order to get that ISO as low as possible, you need an abundance of light. So this usually means shooting outside in the daytime. If you need to shoot a scene inside and it's daytime, open those blinds and let in as much natural light as possible. If it's nighttime, don't shoot. Just kidding. If you need to shoot at night or if there's not a window nearby, you just have to make sure that your lighting is sufficient. You're getting enough light and your camera isn't having to work as hard. If you're not sure of how well lit your room is, then shoot the scene and then take the video and put it on your computer and look at it on a bigger screen to see if it's too noisy or if the image is not very sharp. Both of those factors are telltale signs of your ISO being stretched too far. My next tip is shoot on a tripod. Unless you have a cheap gimbal or you want that outdated early 2000s shaky cam look, you can't really move the camera around. I mean, you can, it just probably won't look very good with your beginner level, entry level gear. You can absolutely pan or tilt the camera while it's on the tripod, but you're gonna have to keep it nice and simple. Even for skilled professional camera operators with great equipment, it can be very difficult to keep the camera nice and stable while shooting freehand, unless they have a gimbal or a rig or some other stabilizer of that sort. Not only will keeping your camera on the tripod make your footage look better, but it will enable you to keep your camera moves more simple so you can focus more on crafting a good story and the technical aspects of operating a camera, like the shutter speed and paying attention to what the video looks like. My next tip is to shoot indoors or outside with minimal wind. I know in the first tip when I was talking about light, I suggested shooting outside, but wind is a huge factor when it comes to recording clean audio. If your project isn't super dialogue heavy, then you can shoot outside still, but if you need any sort of dialogue and even a slight breeze of 5 miles per hour, depending on your on-camera microphones, can be audible. I know, just a slight breeze can sound terrible, and it is so annoying to hear wind noise in the camera, and it takes the viewer right out of the video. This is what the on-camera the Rode Video Micro that's on my camera right now. As you can tell, it picks up a lot. So unless you have an external microphone with some kind of wind reduction foam sleeve or a dead cat, I would suggest avoiding wind altogether in order to get clean audio. Film is all about controlling the environment. And since you can't control the wind when you're outside, unless you have proper audio gear, I would suggest keeping away from the wind and shooting inside. Once you're inside though, you have to be aware of the room you're shooting in. If there isn't a whole lot of stuff on the walls, your voice will reverb, it will echo like crazy. A little bit is okay, but a lot can get very distracting. So in order to know the audio you're recording, you have to listen to it on the camera with earbuds or headphones or whatever, or record it and put it on the computer like I suggested before. My next tip for beginners making the most out of their gear is to shoot shorter videos. I know a lot of you are budding filmmakers and you're just itching, you're busting at the seams to shoot your first feature-length movie, and that's fantastic. But I would very much suggest starting off with smaller projects. Shoot 1-minute videos. Shooting shorter videos will enable you to focus on every aspect of the project. Your camera settings, audio, framing, all of those factors that you have to keep track of when you're shooting. It's much easier to control all that and be aware of it when it's a shorter project. Focus on making those short projects the best they can be. But as filmmakers and video makers, how can we get better faster? With every project that you complete, you learn something, you get better. And the shorter the projects, the faster you'll be able to complete them. Hence, if you start off by making shorter projects, you're going to get better at your craft faster than if you were to make longer ones. Additionally, it takes a lot more commitment to make a 15-minute video than a 3-minute video. When you're starting off, when you're learning a lot of things, it's easy to get discouraged. I want you to have the least amount of friction when it comes to making video projects. I want you to go out, shoot, have fun with it, learn some things, but most of all, keep creating, because as soon as we get discouraged, we lose motivation, our drive kind of comes to a halt. Making shorter projects will allow us to get better and commit less to doing it. It'll be less of a deal. It won't be as big a deal to go out and shoot if we keep our projects short when we're beginning. And my final tip for making the most out of your beginner gear is to critically rewatch your creations. Everybody makes mistakes. You're gonna make mistakes when making videos. I make mistakes. Experts make mistakes, and we learn from them. Experienced people can spot mistakes as they happen, and some people can even spot mistakes before they happen. But when you're first starting off, you might miss a mistake or two while you're shooting and not even discover it while you're editing it. So that's why I suggest rewatching your video. Really focus on every aspect of it. See how the color is in this scene, how the lighting is, how the audio sounds in this scene. Really take the time to critically rewatch your videos. Think in terms of how to make it better instead of how much it might stink. And then share those creations with other people and ask them to critique them. Tell them, don't sugarcoat it. Tell me everything you notice, everything that might have gone wrong, and then take that critique with grace. It might be painful to hear that your work isn't A+ exemplary stuff, and learning to take critique and criticism from others will pay off tenfold down the road, trust me. And then finally, when you're starting off, there's a thing called the Dunning-Kruger effect, where when you're first starting off with a skill and you don't know much, you way overestimate how good you are because you just don't know all the things that you don't know. But as you get more experience, you start to humble yourself and then underestimate. But when you're starting off with video, you are gonna have a tendency to overestimate your abilities. It's perfectly natural, there's nothing wrong with you. It happens to me, it happens to everybody. Just remember to humble yourself and look for criticism from other people in order to make your own craft better. Above all, with any creative endeavor, anything where you're learning skills, the moment you think you've learned it all is when you stagnate. As soon as you are sitting there and you think you're an expert, you're the best, you know everything there is to know, you're gonna stagnate. So always try and get better day to day. Don't let yourself get comfortable with what you know. You can be happy and satisfied, but always look to improve your craft. So that's today's video on making the most of your beginner video gear. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you have anything to add to this, make sure you drop it in the comments section down below. And I have a few Instagram shout outs for all of you. So it's a pretty weird time now, and I asked, what is the one thing that you miss most while in quarantine, while we're in this global pandemic? And I got some interesting responses. Sean says, would you believe nothing? I have found out my life was so secluded that nothing has really changed. And honestly, not surprised, not for Sean, but the fact that some people's lives aren't affected. But it's definitely interesting because a lot of people have this mentality where this pandemic is affecting everybody. And it's definitely interesting to hear that some people's lives haven't really been affected that much. And then we have Katie that also responded and said, I miss having motivation to get shit done and going on spontaneous road trips with my best buds. And I could not empathize with that more. If you saw one of my last videos about Dutch angles, I talked a little bit about how this whole quarantine thing is affecting me and my motivation, everything. And until yesterday, I didn't really get a whole lot of work done. I played a lot of video games, but here I am sitting, shooting video boot camp, teaching all of you great tips on how to effectively use your gear. Okay, so we had a last minute submission to the question about what you miss most about being in quarantine. Bridget says, not being able to study at school. I love learning there, and not being in the environment is challenging. Yes, I do not envy students right now from elementary, high school, college, university. I don't envy you. I'm so glad that I graduated a little bit ago. And learning online would be such a challenge, and not being able to be on campus and learning and being right in front of your professors. I mean, stay strong. You're gonna make it through this semester. We'll all make it through this whole mess. So this video was released around the time the pandemic is still happening. If you wanna revisit it a month down the road after everyone's been let out of quarantine, drop it in the comments down below. What did you miss most? Or once you're out, what did you realize you missed about going outside and everything? So leave that comment down below. Subscribe if you wanna get more video bootcamp episodes. You can visit the playlist, the video bootcamp. There's a ton of great information there. If you're tuned into the video bootcamp playlist, the very next one will be on the production process at the beginner or the consumer level of video. Pre-production, production, post-production. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one.